All right, let's talk about India. You've probably heard the buzz. India's economy is on a serious growth spurt, like it's been hitting the financial gym. We're talking big numbers here, folks. As of May 2025, some reports are saying India's economy has hit a whopping $4.19 trillion. That's trillion with a T. This isn't just pocket change, it's a massive figure that puts India in a new league. This growth means India is now reportedly the world's fourth largest economy. Think about that. It has overtaken Japan, an economic powerhouse for decades. This is a significant moment, a real headline grabber on the global stage for sure. This climb didn't just happen overnight, but it's been impressively quick. If you rewind to 2014, India was the 10th largest economy. Now, in just over a decade, it has jumped 6 places. That's like going from the back of the class straight to the front row. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, also projects that India will officially secure this 4th spot by the end of 2025 or early 2026, solidifying its position. It's a testament to the country's economic momentum and potential. This rapid ascent shows the sheer scale and speed of change happening in the Indian economy. So India is projected to keep growing. We're looking at growth rates of around 6.2% to 6.5% for the coming year, according to the Reserve Bank of India and other forecasts. While other parts of the world see slower growth, India is pushing forward. This isn't just about one good year, it's a pattern. Experts are even looking further ahead, suggesting India might soon challenge Germany for the 3rd spot. Imagine that. This continued expansion is fueled by various factors, including strong domestic demand, especially from rural areas, which is a huge part of India's population. This economic leap is a big deal, no doubt. It signals a shift in global economic power. For a country that was much lower in the rankings just a decade ago, this is a monumental achievement. It speaks volumes about the opportunities and the dynamism within India. Everyone is watching to see what India does next. The government is celebrating this milestone and it gives a sense of national pride, but as we'll see, the big GDP number is just one part of a much, much bigger and more complicated picture. Section 2, the other side of the coin, people, pockets and problems. So India's got this shiny new 4th place trophy in the global GDP Olympics. Fantastic, but here's where things get a little awkward. A little ironic. While the country's total wealth is massive, what about the average Indian? Let's talk per capita income. This is where you take that huge GDP number and divide it by India's massive population of 1.4 billion people, and suddenly the picture looks very different. India's projected per capita nominal GDP for 2025 is around $2,880. Now compare that to Japan, the country India just overtook. Japan's per capita GDP, a staggering $33,960. That's a huge gap. You might say, okay, but what about purchasing power? Things are cheaper in India. True, so let's look at per capita income adjusted for purchasing power parity or PPP. Even with PPP, India's number for 2025 is projected to be around $11,228. Japan, we're talking $52,712. China, its neighbour, is at $27,093. So even when we account for cost of living, the average Indian has significantly less economic power than citizens in many other large economies. India doesn't even make it into the top 100 countries for GDP per capita. That's a tough pill to swallow when you're celebrating being number 4 overall. Now let's move beyond just money. How is life for the average person? We can look at things like the Global Hunger Index. India faces much higher levels of hunger and malnutrition compared to Japan. This means that despite the economic growth, many people are still struggling to get enough food. Then there's the World Happiness Report. Where does India stand? Well, it ranks significantly lower than Japan, so more money in the national bank doesn't automatically translate to more smiles on faces. These are critical indicators of well-being that paint a more complete story. The contrast is stark. On one hand, India is an economic giant. On the other, it lags far behind in crucial socio-economic indicators that reflect actual living standards. This isn't to diminish the GDP achievement. Overtaking Japan is a milestone, but as experts like Alicia Garcia Herrero point out, focusing solely on the total GDP figure can be misleading. It's essential to look at how that wealth is distributed and how it impacts the daily lives of ordinary people. The big numbers are great for headlines, but the smaller personal numbers matter more to families. Section 3, roadblocks ahead: corruption, classrooms and cracks in the system. So, why this big gap between the country's total wealth and the well-being of its people? Well, India faces some serious internal challenges. Let's start with corruption. It's a persistent issue. Compared to Japan, which has much lower levels of corruption, India still struggles. Corruption can act like a massive leak in the economic pipeline, diverting resources that should be going towards development and public services. This means that even with a growing economy, the benefits might not reach everyone, especially the most vulnerable in society, which is a significant concern. Then there's education and development. India's development and education indices are lower than Japan's. While India has made progress, there are significant challenges in providing quality education and healthcare to its vast population. Think about it, a highly skilled and healthy workforce is crucial for sustainable long-term growth. If large sections of the population don't have access to good schools or healthcare, it limits their potential and the country's overall progress. This isn't just about building more schools, it's about the quality of education and accessibility for all, a truly massive undertaking. Inequality is another huge hurdle. India has high levels of inequality. This means that the economic growth we're seeing isn't being shared evenly. A small percentage of the population might be getting much richer, while a large part sees little improvement in their lives. This is compounded by the fact that about 90% of India's workforce is in informal employment. These jobs often lack security, benefits, and decent wages. Plus, female workforce participation is low, around 26%, way below the global average of 47%. Tapping into this potential could be a game changer. And let's not forget the sheer size of India's population. With 1.4 billion people, any economic gain gets diluted when you spread it out. This enormous population also puts immense pressure on resources and infrastructure. There are also significant regional disparities. Some states in India are developing much faster than others, creating an uneven economic landscape within the country itself. These are complex, deep-rooted issues that can't be solved just by a rising GDP number. They require targeted policies and sustained effort over many years to address effectively. Section 4, beyond the trillions, what truly counts for a nation's success. So, we've established that a big GDP is cool, but it's not the whole story, not even close. Why? Because GDP, gross domestic product, is just a measure of the total value of goods and services produced in a country. It tells you how big the economic pie is, but it doesn't tell you how that pie is sliced, who gets the biggest pieces, or if the pie even tastes good, metaphorically speaking. It doesn't tell you if people are healthy, educated, or happy. It doesn't measure pollution or crime, or how many hours people have to work. This is why focusing solely on GDP can be a trap. True national success is about improving the lives of all citizens. It's about socio-economic improvements. Think better healthcare, quality education for every child, cleaner air and water, and safe communities. It's about reducing poverty and ensuring that economic opportunities are available to everyone, not just a select few. These are the things that truly define a country's progress and the well-being of its people. A high GDP is a useful tool, a means to an end, but it should never be the end goal itself. Experts are clear on this. Rafiq Dosani from Stanford University suggests that while catching up with Japan's industrial power is significant, India has a long way to go for similar living standards. Rajeswari Sengupta, an economist, notes that while India's growth is commendable, the comparison with Japan is also partly due to Japan's own economic stagnation over the past decades. The real focus, many argue, needs to be on sustainable and inclusive growth. This means growth that creates jobs, raises incomes for the many, and improves overall quality of life across the board. So what's the path forward for India? Experts suggest a range of reforms. Ranan Banerjee from PwC India talks about reforms for private enterprise and boosting export capabilities. Sakchidanand Shukla from L&T emphasizes the need for deep reforms in agriculture, labor laws, education, and even the judicial and administrative systems. Radhika Rao from DBS Bank stresses the importance of employment generation and macroeconomic stability. These reforms are crucial if India wants its economic growth to translate into tangible benefits for its 1.4 billion people, ensuring that the next chapter of India's story is not just about big numbers, but about better lives.